Hi everyone, welcome back to the Dr. Sia channel. In the video here today, we're going to be talking about how do I tell other people that I go to therapy. There are a lot of people who actually ask me this over on Insta, where when people sort of private message me and they ask me, hey, look, I want to go to therapy, but I don't know how to tell other people, including one of the biggest concerns that people have is often mothers who want to go to therapy and don't know how to tell their kids that they do. So they sort of don't. They just say, look, mommy's just going to the doctor or whatever, not really explaining to them that they're actually going to a therapist. So there seems to be some fear there in people that they might either hurt other people or get judged or something like that. So that's what we're here to discuss today. How do I tell other people that I go to therapy? Let's get started. All right, so firstly, I suppose we have to clarify what are the issues of going to a therapist. What is it that we fear might happen? Well, if we're an adult and we're telling other people, of course what we are afraid of is that their reaction might somehow negatively either affect ourselves or that their reaction somehow may negatively affect them. Now, if we're a parent of sorts, our biggest fear is, of course, that we will somehow hurt our children if we tell them that we're going to therapy, that that's going to do something to them. So I have three things here that we can talk about. So three ways, basically, that we can address this issue of potentially doing harm or harm being done unto us emotionally if we tell another person that we are going to therapy. So how do we go about that? So the first thing that we have to consider, though, is that if we are going to tell a person that we are going to therapy and that actually will result in us being harmed, I mean, if the person is going to be abusive towards us, if they are going to abandon us and we are not able to take care of ourselves, I'm referring if there are any kids out there who are watching this, or if we are in a way, in any sort of way, put in danger by letting another people know that we are in therapy, then we don't, right? There is no way to tell a person who will put you in danger that you go to therapy. If danger comes your way by you being in therapy, then you definitely do not want to tell that person or whoever is going to put you in danger that you are in therapy. So that's one of the key things I think for you to consider. Does telling the person perhaps result in emotional turmoil, or does it put you in harm's way? If it puts you in harm's way, there's no way for you to tell the person that you're going to therapy, and you need to be doing what you need to be doing to get out of harm's way. And there are a lot of things that you can do about that. All right, so then the second thing, let's talk about if it's not about direct harm, violence coming towards your way, what are the kind of things that we could be expecting would happen if we tell another adult, if we tell a friend or whatever that we are going to therapy? So let's just pretend that we're telling a partner. I'm assuming a lot of people are wondering about how to tell a partner that they want to go to therapy or that they are indeed going to therapy. Now, there are different reactions that could be happening there. One is that your partner could become judgmental, that they could start judging you about you going to therapy, that there is somehow something wrong with you that you go to therapy. Now, what you could do about that are two things. One is you could spend effort and time explaining to them, clarifying any issues they may have around therapy, any misunderstandings they might have about people who go to therapy. That, for example, they might say, you're crazy. You might want to explain to them that crazy doesn't actually mean anything. A lot of people go to therapy. It's actually healthy to go to therapy. People who are very healthy and very successful in life still go to therapy, or people who went to therapy and became successful and became very happy and became very well because of therapy. So you might want to spend some effort there. Or you might notice that the person is just not open to listening, your partner is just not open to listening, in which case, drop it. Drop it, leave it, and move on. It's not your responsibility to make sure that everyone who's potentially judgmental about you going to therapy is cleared up. It's not, you don't have to become sort of an agent of change. You can if you like, but it's also not your responsibility. in the end, that idea that there's something crazy about you if you've gone to therapy and that person holds that, that's really their problem. That's going to hurt them more along the line, because if they ever have a problem, they are the ones who won't be able to go to a therapist. So explain, I suppose, if you think that it's useful to do so. And if you notice that it's not useful, drop it and move on. You don't need to change other people's minds about it. Now, a final thing that happens, I suppose a third thing that happens, and this is before I move on to talking about children, which I suppose is 3.5, or the fourth thing. I should be saying 4 things that we're going to be talking about. So the third thing that a partner might do is they might project. So this is often something that happens, is that your partner projects some idea onto you. So for example, you might say you are going to therapy, and they might say something along the lines of, well, you're going to therapy to hurt them. That the only reason you're going to therapy is to hurt your partner. Oh, you're just doing it to get back at me or whatever. You're just doing it to show me sort of how hurtful I've been or whatever. Now, these are things called projection. Your partner in that moment feels hurt by you going to therapy, so they are projecting onto you that you are trying to hurt them by going to therapy. Of course, that's not the case. You're going to therapy because you want to improve your well-being. But what we can do in that case is we can help them see that they are hurt somehow by us going to therapy, and that we are not intending on hurting them in any way, and helping them see that there's some idea within them that actually hurts them. They might believe that they are flawed somehow. They might believe that they've done something wrong somehow. They might believe that perhaps because they are always doing the wrong thing, and that's why you're going to therapy. Now, that may be the case. It may be the case that that's why you're going to therapy, but that you're still not going to therapy just to get back at them. So you might be able to explain to them that A, no, there's nothing going on with you, this is about me, or yes, there is something going on between us and I want to go and help myself be more well, or whatever else, whatever else the projection might be about. So these are sort of 2 things to be looking out for, is looking out for judgment, as I said in the second one, and to look out for the possibility of projection, that your partner makes things up out of their mind and says that you are doing them, as opposed to it's happening to themselves. And you can help them see that by saying, there's nothing that I'm doing to hurt you in that way. I don't want to hurt you in any way, but maybe there's some idea within you that hurts you. Maybe there's some idea within you that you are somehow flawed or not good enough, and then that's why I'm going. Is that happening for you? You can drop in a honey if you like. Is that happening for you, honey? And then it sort of becomes more of a caring conversation about their reaction. Of course, another thing to really keep in mind is that we are not responsible for other people's reactions. Meaning, just because you go to therapy doesn't mean that people don't get to have their own reactions. They do. They can be pissed off about that. They can be happy about that. They can be angry about that. They can be joyous about that. It does not really touch your decision. So your decision to go to therapy is yours alone. But if you choose to, you can be there to support them through the feelings that they are going through and help them clarify any misunderstandings that they might have. This then brings us to the 4th thing that we wanted to talk about today, which is, how do I tell my children? How do I tell my children that I go to therapy? Now, this is a really big one, and it's really hard for a lot of parents because they think that they might do harm onto their children somehow. Now, statistics show, research show, actually, no. There is no research to say at all that parents can hurt or harm their children in any way by letting them know that they go to therapy. You can actually be quite blunt about it. You can say, mommy has a problem with her mind and she needs help with her brain. That's quite blunt, right? Mommy has a huge problem with her brain and she needs help. That's still safe. You could say, I have a huge emotional issue, and it's still safe. Children are really resilient in this idea that we seek help. And why is that? It's because from very young age, most children, almost all children, at least in Western society, are familiar with the idea of going to the doctor, are familiar with the idea of having problems. The one thing to look out for, to watch out for as a parent, if you're going to tell your child that you're going to a psychologist or a therapist, is to make sure that you do not make it about them in any way. That you do not in any way put them into your sentence. So do not build a sentence where they are in one way or another implicated. So for example, you wouldn't want to say, mommy's not being really a good mother to you, and therefore she's going to therapy. Daddy's not being a good dad, so he needs to go to therapy. We don't want to do that, because even though while you're well-meaning, they won't understand the association, and they might come up with the idea that it's them being faulty or flawed somehow, which is why you're going to therapy. So we just want to keep it about ourselves and say, I am having some problems, and therefore I need to go to therapy to deal with me. And anyone who has any problems for themselves, they can do that too. Then later on, or in a separate sentence, we can say, it's not because of anybody else that mommy or daddy, or actually I'm saying mommy and daddy, but you might be a caretaker and be an aunt or an uncle or whatever, to say, I am going to therapy, not because of anybody else, not because anyone has done anything, no one has done nothing, but it's just some things that are going on with me. And then it's really important to emphasize your love and the care that you have for your family, that you love everybody, you care everybody, and that's never going to change. That has nothing to do with the fact that you're going to the doctor. So it might sound something like this. I'll just say mommy again, because most people who ask me these questions are mommies. So, mommy, this is my kitty voice. Mommy, how come you're going to the psychologist? Well, honey, mommy is having some problems, and mommy's going to the psychologist to deal with those problems. What psychologists do is that they help us when we have any forms of problems within us. They help us deal with those problems. Now, I just want to emphasize that there's nothing wrong with anybody else. It's all about mommy. Mommy still loves everybody very much, and what mommy's working on has nothing to do with how much she loves everybody. All right? What are your ideas about that? What are your thoughts? What comes to mind for you? How are you feeling about that? This is an extremely important bit in being able to communicate to your children, that rather than avoidance, rather than not talking to them at all about it, but being able to communicate to them why you're going to the psychologist. I hope that this session was really helpful to you. It's a really long session, but we had a lot to cover. I hope you found it useful. Please drop a comment. Please drop a like, subscribe, press that bell button so I pop up on your phone. If you found this useful, let me know, because there are a lot of people who ask me about parenting stuff. And of course, it often comes up in our lives. We deal with therapy, we deal with therapeutic issues, but how do we inform the people around us? So anyway, let me know what you think, and I'll see you again for the next video.